So when you type a prompt into an AI, it feels totally weightless, right?
Oh, yeah, completely. Like magic.
Right. You hit enter, a little cursor blinks, and a perfectly formulated answer just streams across the screen. It feels like pure software, just, magic floating out there in the ether.
Yeah, the classic cloud illusion.
Exactly. But behind that blinking cursor is a massive, and I mean incredibly heavy, physical behemoth. So today, we are breaking down why the real battle for AI supremacy, well, it isn't about having the cleverest algorithm anymore.
No, not at all.
It is about heavy industrial scale infrastructure.
Right. It's the physical reality basically dictating the digital output. Because if you only look at the software side of things, you're completely missing the mechanics of the biggest strategic moves happening in the business world right now.
Yeah, and to guide us through this reality check today, we are doing a deep dive into a really fascinating piece of analysis. It's by J.D. Parashar.
Yeah, he's a consultant at Rethynk AI.
Right, and the article is titled The New Economics of AI, Why Compute is Becoming the Real Strategic Asset. And honestly, there is no clearer illustration of this new economy than the absolute earthquake of a deal that actually sparked Parashar's piece.
Oh, the Anthropic and SpaceX deal.
Yes. We are talking about Anthropic committing nearly $45 billion over 3 years.
Which is just, I mean, that figure fundamentally redefines the scale of the entire industry.
It's staggering. Okay, let's unpack this because the numbers are wild.
They really are. They are paying $1.25 billion every single month until May 2029.
Wow.
Yeah, and with a specific ramp-up adjustment baked in for May and June of 2026.
Okay, let's just pause and do the math on that for you listening, because $1.25 billion a month isn't just a large budget line item. That is roughly $41 million a day.
Every single day.
Every day.
Yeah.
Anthropic is burning through the equivalent of a mid-sized company's entire annual revenue in one day, just to secure computing capacity for their AI, Claude.
Yeah, and you don't spend $41 million a day on, like, software licenses.
Right.
That kind of money is buying concrete, steel, and dedicated power grids.
It's heavy industry. In the early days of cars, everyone was obsessed with who could build the cleverest engine, right, more. But this deal proves we are now in the era where the winner is the one who buys up all the oil fields and the roads.
That's a great way to put it. And what's fascinating here is that this isn't just a basic vendor contract. It's a massive signal.
How so?
Well, it proves that companies are no longer just experimenting. They are, as Parashar puts it in the article, paying for permanence.
Paying for permanence. Which brings us to the actual physical footprint of this deal, because Anthropic is using this capital to expand from their current facility.
Right, the one known as Colossus One.
Yeah, into an entirely new second massive facility that they've dubbed Colossus II. And Colossus One is already pulling over 300 megawatts of power.
Which is a massive number on its own.
It is. Let's elevate that number for you, because 300 megawatts sounds kind of abstract. We aren't talking about powering a few neighborhoods here.
Not at all.
A modern commercial nuclear reactor produces around 1,000 megawatts. So Colossus One alone is pulling down about a third of a nuclear reactor's total output.
And Colossus Aesthetic is expanding on that.
Exactly. But I have to ask the mechanical question here, because it's the elephant in the room, right? SpaceX.
Yeah, it throws people off.
Right. Because when we think of SpaceX, we think of rockets and, satellite networks. How and why is an aerospace company suddenly the landlord for Anthropic's terrestrial AI data centers?
It seems like a leap, sure, until you look at the mechanics of what an AI data center actually requires. Because training and running these massive models, it isn't just a matter of plugging in more servers.
Right. It's not just a big IT closet.
Exactly. You are running tens of thousands of GPUs, graphics processing units, in parallel at absolute maximum capacity. And from a physics standpoint, those GPUs are essentially massive heat engines.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, standard data center cooling systems completely fail under that kind of load.
So it actually becomes a thermodynamic problem.
Precisely. It's a thermodynamic challenge, an energy transmission challenge, and basically heavy industrial engineering challenge.
And who excels at that?
Right. Who excels at managing extreme heat, securing massive industrial real estate, and negotiating grid-level power rights for heavy manufacturing. Aerospace companies.
That makes total sense.
SpaceX already possesses the industrial infrastructure, the advanced cooling engineering from rocket testing, and the global high-speed satellite interconnects to manage data backhaul.
So they are uniquely positioned to build facilities that pull hundreds of megawatts. They aren't just selling server space, they're selling extreme industrial resilience.
Yeah, and from Anthropic's side, this explains Parashar's core thesis. This is why we are moving away from software economics and diving headfirst into infrastructure economics.
Infrastructure economics.
Yeah, in the software era, you won by having the best code, the smartest developers. But in infrastructure economics, future competition is won through physical, tangible assets.
So access to stable compute, energy capacity, and operational resilience. It's the difference between relying on a solar panel on your roof versus being wired directly into the Hoover Dam. A solar panel is great, it runs your lights, but you cannot run a national manufacturing supply chain on it.
No, you definitely need the Hoover Dam for that.
Right. And what Anthropic is doing is essentially buying exclusive access to the Hoover Dam of compute. So what does this all mean for the business world? Like, why the sudden need for a Hoover Dam?
Well, because their AI, Claude, is seeing massive real-world adoption for daily, highly practical tasks.
Oh.
The article notes growing demand for things like coding support and enterprise security analysis.
Right. And if you are a Fortune 500 company relying on an AI to monitor your global enterprise security, that system cannot go down just because a server cluster overheated or ran out of capacity.
Exactly. The reliability has to be absolute. And here is the financial proof that this heavy infrastructure play is actually working.
Okay.
Parashar notes that Anthropic has shared figures pointing to a possible first quarterly operating profit alongside projected revenue growth.
Wait, really? An actual operating profit in AI? Because the ongoing narrative for, years now has been that these companies are just burning venture capital in a furnace to train these models.
That has been the narrative, yeah. But this deal shows the path out of the furnace. By securing this massive, stable grid of compute through SpaceX, Anthropic turns their AI from an isolated, fragile pilot project into a reliable, enterprise-scale utility.
And organizations will pay a premium to deploy this technology because they know the underlying foundation is rock solid.
Right, it pushes the whole market to focus on durable business value rather than just a neat demo.
Okay, but pouring $45 billion into a single infrastructure partner has to have a dark side. I mean, if I'm looking at the broader ecosystem here, aren't we creating a massive single point of failure?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, Parashar's article dives into the hidden risks of this scale, and the first major red flag is concentration risk.
It is a severe vulnerability. When compute becomes concentrated in just a few massive infrastructure partners, the AI firms become entirely dependent on a tiny number of incredibly powerful suppliers.
And the SpaceX filing even suggests they might pursue similar lease agreements with other AI firms in the future.
Right, which means they could hold the keys to multiple major AI players.
I have to push back on this model then. If every major AI company ends up leasing their operational power from the exact same infrastructure giants, aren't we just trading one kind of monopoly, like software dominance, for an even more impenetrable hardware and energy monopoly?
Yeah, that's a very valid
If
concern.
SpaceX suddenly holds all the cards for the entire AI ecosystem.
Well, I would argue that from an engineering standpoint, this level of centralization isn't necessarily a hostile monopoly. It's actually an efficiency necessity.
Really? How so?
You simply cannot piecemeal a 300-megawatt GPU cluster. The latency over fiber optics alone dictates that tens of thousands of GPUs must be physically adjacent to one another to train a model effectively.
Oh, I see. So they literally have to be in the same massive building.
Exactly. And only a handful of players in the world have the capital to secure that much contiguous land, negotiate with local utility monopolies, and build the dedicated substations required.
But the risk to innovation is massive. I mean, if SpaceX or a similar landlord controls the physical spigot, they control who gets to play in the AI space.
That's true.
And Parashar also highlights the incredible financial pressure this creates. If high compute demand compresses margins, these AI companies have to monetize their tools relentlessly just to cover that $41 million a day burn rate.
And that financial pressure compounds the physical pressure. Because finding the real estate for Colossus II isn't just about empty land. As Parashar outlines, it forces organizations to navigate intense site strategy and sustainability hurdles.
Right, because of the power and cooling.
Yeah, you need proximity to massive power grids, you need incredible amounts of water or advanced closed-loop systems for cooling. The physical footprint is a massive friction point.
Which brings us to a concept Parashar calls strategic imbalance. If I'm reading between the lines here, let me guess. We are spending billions of dollars making the AI incredibly fast and powerful, optimizing for raw compute, but we are basically throwing pennies at the safety rails to control it.
You've hit the nail on the head. That is the essence of strategic imbalance. This raises an important question, right? If an entire industry and every boardroom within it is solely obsessed with securing the next megawatt or the next batch of servers.
There is a severe risk they will critically underinvest in governance, ethics, and human judgment.
Precisely.
So we're building a massive unstoppable engine, but we aren't spending any time engineering the steering wheel or the brakes.
And Parashar explicitly warns that while compute can power intelligence, it absolutely cannot replace leadership discipline.
Right.
When an enterprise integrates AI into its core security or operations, a failure in human oversight can be just as catastrophic as a power outage at the data center.
That is a crucial pivot for us, because Parashar isn't just an analyst, right? He's a consultant at Rethynk AI. He's looking at this through a strategic survival lens for businesses.
Exactly.
So if the war is now about massive infrastructure, and you and I don't have $45 billion laying around to rent out Colossus II, how are regular leaders and organizations supposed to adapt to this new reality?
Well, the primary takeaway for leaders, and Rethink AI emphasizes this heavily, is that the lesson is not simply to spend more.
Right, you can't win a spending war against Anthropic.
Exactly. Trying to outspend the megatitans at their own game is a guaranteed path to bankruptcy. Instead, compute will soon need to be negotiated and managed like strategic real estate.
Strategic real estate, meaning you don't just sign up for a cloud subscription and forget about it. You have to understand the physical supply chain of your computing power.
Yes, exactly. Just like commercial real estate, organizations need to secure their foundational architecture before they try to scale. You have to measure your AI tools not just by capability, like what impressive trick they could do in a demo, but by continuity.
Continuity, like how reliably can this model run day after day?
Right, and how insulated is your business if the compute supply chain gets squeezed.
And this shifts the entire conversation for anyone listening who works in a corporate environment. Here's where it gets really interesting, because Parashar is basically declaring that AI is no longer just an IT task.
No, not at all anymore.
It isn't a piece of software you ask the tech department to install on a Friday. It is fundamentally a boardroom responsibility.
It requires systemic, top-down thinking.
Yeah.
And Rethink AI's consulting methodology focuses specifically on this, moving beyond just the tools and the flashy headlines.
Right.
They prioritize AI strategy, organizational readiness, and what they call leadership literacy.
Leadership literacy. I love that term. That means the executives signing off on these tools actually need to understand the mechanics we are talking about today.
They absolutely have to.
They need to know that when they deploy an AI tool for, say, supply chain management, they are relying on an infrastructure chain that stretches all the way back to extreme scale facilities drawing hundreds of megawatts.
Yeah. And if we connect this to the bigger picture Parashar is painting, his ultimate thesis is that the companies that win in this new era will not merely be the ones building AI products.
Then who wins?
The winners will be the ones building resilient AI economies.
Building AI economies. So constructing an entire architecture around the model itself.
Right.
The strategic partnerships, the cost management, the grid resilience, the internal governance, basically everything that happens outside the actual chat window.
Exactly. The true strategic advantage lies in the architecture around the intelligence. The organizations that thrive won't necessarily have the smartest localized algorithm. They will be the best prepared. They will treat compute infrastructure as a core strategic asset and align their technological growth with rigorous operational governance.
This completely flips the script on how we need to view this technology. Let's recap the mechanics of what we've uncovered today for you. We started with the illusion of weightless software, but the reality is that the AI boom has officially graduated into heavy industrial warfare.
It really has.
The sheer scale of the $45 billion Anthropic SpaceX deal, burning roughly $41 million a day for massive thermodynamically complex data centers, proves that reliable compute, massive energy, and physical scale are the true strategic assets of tomorrow.
Definitely.
We are moving from a world of lightweight software pilots to a world of heavy enterprise-scale utilities. But, with that shift comes the very real dangers of concentration risk, monopolized infrastructure, and the massive threat of strategic imbalance.
Right, where we build the engine but completely forget the steering wheel. It is a fundamental transformation of the global tech landscape, moving from the digital realm back into the physical world of steel, power grids, and cooling towers.
Yeah.
And it leaves us with something profoundly important to consider regarding the future of innovation.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because Parashar talks about compute becoming like strategic real estate. Well, if computing power is becoming as expensive and tightly controlled as prime physical real estate in Manhattan, what happens to the brilliant, scrappy startups of tomorrow?
Oh, wow. That's a great point.
As this massive physical infrastructure becomes the mandatory foundation of all future technology, will true artificial intelligence become a luxury commodity?
Right, like a resource with a velvet rope around it that only the absolute mega titans can afford to build.
Exactly.
That is a fascinating and honestly slightly terrifying thought to chew on. Are we building a future where intelligence itself is gated by industrial monopolies? We'll leave you to ponder that one. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the real economics of AI. We hope this conversation encourages you to look past the blinking cursor and keep questioning the massive underground architecture powering the technology you use every single day.